Welcome back to episode 34 of Blurred Summits. Today we're going to be talking about leadership. So we'll look into how to develop leadership, the behavioral guidelines for leaders, and then what a transformational leader is. So Abdul, how does one develop leadership?
Yeah, so there's like a couple of fundamental things about leaders that we see in day-to-day life,
Mm-hmm.
and and that translates to us as well. So for example, let me give you an example. Development of high skill. This is number one thing. If you want to be a better leader, you need to have high skill.
Yeah.
If you look at soccer teams, for example, Ronaldo is the team captain. He's the leader of the pack, right? So I don't know if he is anymore, but
Or not the captain, I'm not sure, but yeah.
he at least he used to be. Or if you look at basketball players who are generally the highest skill are also going to be leaders. That doesn't mean that because you have high skill, you're a leader. Do you see?
Yeah.
So it's like you need to have high skill to be a leader, but that doesn't mean that one directly jumps to the next.
Well, if
You know
you're a
what I'm
leader,
saying?
then you have high skill, though. It goes one way, but
Exactly.
not the other.
Exactly. It goes one way, but not the other. Yeah. Number two, strong work ethic. The leader needs to be the hardest worker or at least have extremely high work ethic in comparison to the rest of his team, right? There's like a really dumb misconception that the CEO of the company doesn't do any work or that they kind of just lounge around all day. And that's never the case, right? Usually the CEO is the one who's working 80 to 90 hours a week, very high stress, all this kind of stuff, right? And that's why they're the CEO.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they got to put all that effort into that stuff, right? Like, well, even if they might not in that aspect be putting in all the work, they're the one with all the pressure.
Yeah.
And all the risk.
And all the risk. The next thing, you need to have good rapport with people, right? You need to be able to build up trust with your team. A leader who is very hardworking, has a lot of skill, but his team doesn't trust him or like him, then you're donezo. You're pooched.
Well, to lead, you got to have people to follow, right?
Exactly.
And if you don't got people to follow, you ain't no leader.
Bingo. And then the last one is enriched tactical knowledge. What this basically means is that you know how to maneuver around the obstacles that are necessary in your field, right? So you know how to solve the problems.
Yeah.
You know, if you have high skill, you know, like, let's say you're Elon Musk.
Okay.
And
go back to this.
You're an amazing engineer. By trade, he's an engineer, right? Yeah. Like, that's what he studied. So he's an engineer by trade. So he has high skill, phenomenal work ethic. Let's say he has amazing rapport with his team. His team believe in him, all this kind of stuff. But he doesn't know how to solve any problems, right? He just knows how to be a good engineer. That doesn't mean he's going to be a good leader.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so like the do's and don'ts of being a leader. Number one is don't give hostile advice, right? Don't give feedback to correct something, but in a very demeaning, hostile manner, because you're going to what? You're going to decrease the rapport.
Yeah, you'll lose,
you know what I'm saying?
You'll lose the follower.
You're going to lose the follower. You're going to lose the trust with your team.
Yeah, so then the next one here is maintain order through clear expectations, right? So like if you're going to set some expectations, you want to make sure that everyone knows what those expectations are. You're all on the same page, right? Because if you have these high expectations, they've got kind of these lower ones, but they don't know where you're sitting, then one, they'll never meet your expectations, and two, you'll always be getting mad at them for not meeting them, right?
Exactly. The next one is, don't get in a position of having to nag, right? It's if your team around you, or you bring someone on and you're always telling them what to do, how to do it, when to finish everything, then you don't give them any autonomy or freedom to be their own people. Nobody likes to be controlled by, even their parents. Use that example. You don't like to be controlled by your parents. When your teacher tells you and they keep nagging you about something, you never want to do it. Well, the same thing applies to any position, right?
Yeah, that makes lots of sense there. So then this next one is use encouragement selectively, right? Like you don't want to overly encourage people because then they'll be kind of grow to expect it. And then overall people will stop trying as much because they think, hey, everything I do, I get encouraged for, right?
Yeah.
So it's like participation medals in like even school growing up, right?
Yeah.
It's, hey, you did a good job. Here's a medal. So you think you did a good job.
When you could have done a terrible job.
Yeah, you just participated.
Like you could have put in zero effort, and now everyone's telling you, "Oh wow, great work." What? You know?
Yeah. Well, have you had anyone in your life that like excessively gives you a pat on the back for stuff?
Yeah. I think my family sometimes will give me pats, especially when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's always you're doing things right. It's never
Yeah.
you're doing things wrong. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? I think, yeah, outside my family, not much. Not much outside my family. Family's kind of like the only ones that like give me pats on the back, even if it's like terrible or it's not phenomenal. It's like, oh, great job.
Well, there seems like there's always some teachers on like over the years, right, that do the same thing where it's like no matter what anyone does, it's, oh, you did your best, good job.
Yeah.
Well, did you do your best?
It's
did
like,
you do your best?
That's another interesting thing is teachers will always say, you know, it doesn't matter what you get as long as you do your best. But then a person won't even be trying and they'll be like, at least I did my best. It's like, no, you didn't do your best. Like if you actually did your best, sure.
Yeah.
But you didn't.
Yeah.
You're just so it doesn't make any sense.
That's why I was always more of a fan of like the harder teachers growing up.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
because they pushed you to they basically pushed you to try your best or want to do your best.
the worst.
And then they understand it though.
The worst teachers are ones where, you know, they tell you you're doing fine in school or like you're doing great and stuff like that. But then in parent-teacher interviews, they just stab you in the back, in front.
I've had that a handful of times. I'm quite familiar
You
with
just
that.
get destroyed.
Like I walk into this, I won't say the teacher. This is
Yeah.
grade 8 though. Walk in out of nowhere, bam! What is going on? Just absolutely ripping. I was like
I was not expecting.
like settle
this.
down, calm down, give me a break.
That's so funny. Yeah, and then you lose trust, right?
Yeah,
And the trust is gone. Like if they at least gave you some sort of a heads up, or you knew that teacher was not sitting
Then
well
it's
with
okay.
you, then it's like, okay, it's fine because its expectations are clear. They just finesse you like that. Oh my god, that's so terrible.
they're like, yeah, you're good in class, like make everyone's fine.
Mm.
And they're like, well, it's their big plan. I'm gonna go ruin it for
Yeah.
their parents, ruin their weekend.
You're like, I'm gonna have a great night tonight at parent-teacher interviews. And then you walk in there, and you just get obliterated.
Yeah,
That's so funny. And the last one is provide clear instructions in a clear, concise manner, and whenever possible, show them how it's done.
mm-hmm.
You want them to do a task, show them how it's done, so then they can use their different forms of learning to really take that in. So, have you ever kind of said something to a person, either over text or something? Or maybe it's over text, and you text it, and you think that the text is clear. Like, oh, come on, it makes perfect sense, but it's not clear because it wasn't outlined in a clear, concise manner. Hudson, has that ever happened to you?
I think it happens between us all the time. Well, first off, we have this recurring thing where unless you put the actual like AM or PM behind it, Abdul has no clue, and he always seems to go the wrong way with that. That is true. That is factual. And then
what?
I think, well, yeah, you always get the timing off with.
Okay, I get the
with that.
timing off.
And then
Fine.
this was with Avengers. Was it Endgame?
It was Avengers Endgame.
So
It was the last movie.
we're trying to plan going to this movie after all of our finals are done. This is vital to the story. This is during finals in university.
Yes.
So we're going the day of our buddy's last exam. His exam's at 4 in the evening. Hold with me. 4 in the evening, right?
But who knows?
No,
Who knows?
4.
It could be
So he's
4
got
in
his
the
final.
evening,
He's
3
got
in
his
the
final
evening.
at 4 p.m.
He has
4
his
p.m. to
final
7
that day.
No, it's in the evening.
Okay,
We knew the
okay.
time. It's like
Fine.
4. It's like 4 to 7. It's like a calculus test, really hard stuff.
Fair.
So then we're like, okay, we'll go see it after. We talked about this.
What?
That was in person. We were talking about it.
Okay.
And then we start getting the tickets. Me and my buddy. We'll just say our buddy Kyle. Yeah. We're like, okay, we'll go see it. We'll see it at
10.
10.
10 on, let's say, Friday or whatever.
Yeah, it was probably
right?
a Friday or something. Yeah.
10. We're going to go see it at 10 on Friday.
So then me and Kyle, we both get our tickets. We're all good.
Yeah.
We got them beside each other. We made sure our seats are right. Everything good.
And I also booked a seat right next to them. And I even put in the chat.
You said, hey, it looks like there's empty seats beside me. Did you guys actually do it?
No.
Yeah?
I said in the chat, okay, so we're settled for 10 a.m. on Friday. It was like 20 something, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I said, are we good for that? And you guys said yes.
Because we
said
didn't think you're
yes,
dumb
we're
enough
good.
to put the wrong. Who's first off? Who sees a movie at 10 a.m. on a Friday? 1, 2. He has a final at 4 p.m. So why would he spend 3 hours going to watch a movie the morning of his final?
Maybe he wanted a stress break. It doesn't matter. The point is, I was clear and concise. 10 a.m. You guys say yes. I booked my ticket for 10 a.m. Both of them, turns out, they book it for 10 p.m. that same day. And, like, the seat bookings were, like, the same. So we all, like, I thought I had booked next to them. But I hadn't. You know, it was the most crazy coincidence. And then we eventually ended up having to, like, change it to later.
And that was the night of a crazy snowstorm. So it was a good thing we pushed it back anyways.
But that was, so who was in the right? Was it the person who made the clear, concise expectations and instructions, or was it the individuals who decided to take their own interpretation?
Or the ones
We'll
who
leave
use
that
logic,
to you guys.
the ones who use logic and understanding of situations and had their tickets already, and then you came in and, like, both of us were like, yeah, probably didn't even think about it, because who's dumb enough to see a movie at 10 a.m.
People all the time go see movies at 10 a.m.
before their final
Yes.
on a Friday?
On
Like
a Friday.
It was midweek. It was whatever midweek too.
Yeah. Okay, anyways, leaving that to the side, the moral of the story is ensure that you provide clear, concise instructions and, as much as possible, demonstrate
from the beginning. Because you're also in the wrong. That was at the end. That was when everything was done and dusted. You said 10 a.m.
Yeah. No.
Yeah?
I said at the end when I said 10 a.m., that's when it clicked in all of our minds that we messed up. Because I said 10 a.m. and then Kyle was like, wait, no, I booked 10 p.m. What are you talking about? Yeah, that was funny. Anyways, next thing is transformational leadership. And this is kind of where the meat and potatoes is of leadership, right? Everyone, there's different kinds of leaders. There's transactional leaders. There is like just people, role model leaders, all this kind of stuff. But transformational leaders are the kinds of leaders that are the gold standard, we'll call them, right? And people want to be this kind of leader. So what is a transformational leader? It's a leader who can inspire people to follow a vision and support the work collectively to help each other excel.
Okay, cool.
Right?
So yeah, this is kind of like the most effective kind of leader, right? Like
Yeah.
they can kind of get the most done, get their troops to rally behind them and all that sort of thing.
Exactly, right? It's not just a person who can move a project forward, but they can get people to really invest their heart and soul into that project.
Yeah.
You know, any idiot could have a team and take them to the finish line, but having a team who seriously care about it, are they willing to stay overtime? Are your group members? Oh, are you good?
Choked on my teeth.
Are your group members willing to stay late on the weekend to work on the project? Are they gonna get the project in on time?
Mm-hmm.
Is dependent on the transformational leader.
Or them having their job on the line.
So the 4 fundamental components, if you want to be a transformational leader, this is what you have to do. Number 1, you need to serve as a role model to your team, right? You need to serve as a role model. And the way that you serve as a role model is through initially gaining their trust, gaining their admiration, and gaining their respect. So a great example of a leader who did this was Steve Jobs.
I've heard things of him doing terrible things, and people were scared of him, though.
Exactly. So that's the thing about Steve Jobs is Steve Jobs had this one component. He didn't have the other components that we'll talk about here in a second, but he had this one component down pat, which is that even though he was yelling at his employees, he was throwing stuff at them, it was extremely toxic, abusive workplace, he had their trust. Like if you'll speak to any old Steve Jobs employee, they'll always say that he has their admiration. They always admired him, you know. Even though he was very mean to them, they admired him, they trusted him, they respected him for what he was able to do and what he was able to accomplish. So even though they might not like him as an individual, they still respected him. And most of the time, if you listen to the employees, they'll say, you know, some of those years working with Steve Jobs were some of the best years of my life.
Interesting.
Even though it was extremely toxic and abusive, which is, right? The second component is you want to convey a compelling mission, at the same time, get people to want to take on challenging tasks. So these kind of go in hand. And the best example for this is Elon Musk. He provides his employees with a compelling vision. The vision is that we're going to get to Mars. What a compelling vision that is. Or if you work at Tesla, we're going to solve the problem of renewable energy in like the automotive industry. That's a compelling vision, right?
Yeah.
That is a vision that's like, wow, when you have an engineer, your team of people, you're working on this project, they're thinking, wow, I could really change the world with this. And when they really are believing such a compelling vision, it's such a amazing vision, they're willing to take on more challenging tasks.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense there.
Exactly.
So then this next one here is encourage new and creative ways to approach a problem, right? Again, that kind of falls under the Elon Musk sort of stuff.
Yeah.
With the innovate, push your own limits, right? Push your own limits and kind of develop everyone as a whole.
Yeah. And like, that's Elon Musk is a great example because there is common problems that have always existed and Tesla kind of finds creative ways around them. For example, with the cars, we have all had the problem of our car door not opening, right? Like, or it's a spot that's too close. You can't get out your car door because you'll hit the car next to you.
I feel like he just wanted dope wing doors, Falcon doors, and he just did it that way.
How did he solve it? He literally created these Falcon wing doors. So, like, what a creative thing. But look how compelling that is as well. Like, who the heck wouldn't want to have that, right? How savage is that? 18 inches. That's all it takes for the door to open.
18 inches, and you can get out.
You cannot get out in 18
Yeah,
inches.
I could.
The width of your body's more than 18 inches.
You can squeeze out.
You're pulling that gut, boy.
I can squeeze out there, bro.
And last but not least, the fourth component of transformational leadership is recognizing the individual needs of your team. So a bad example of this is Steve Jobs, right? This is where Steve Jobs lacked, is he didn't see his team as individuals. He didn't see that they had lives outside of their work. He didn't see that, or, frankly, he didn't care.
Yeah.
Maybe he just didn't care. And he wanted the company to succeed, and so he was extremely ruthless. And so this is where Steve Jobs, he was not a transformational leader.
No.
He had some of the sauce, right? But you got to have all the ingredients for the food to taste good, right? You got to have all the ingredients for the meal. So you have to have all four of the components of transformational leadership. If you don't have all four of the components, you're pooched.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how all four of these different, like, they're all fields have to come together to work to create that best kind of leader there, right? And it's kind of found that that all these are what all these transformational leaders have, are all these the same four things, right?
And like, this is the interesting thing too, is this is not, we use examples of Elon Musk and Steve Jobs just because we all know those people, but this applies to leadership in all facets of your life.
Yeah.
Let's take a group project, for example. Right. Oh my God, I'm like losing my voice. So let's say that you are in a group project and everyone hates group project because most of the time you're stuck with a group that you don't know any of these people, if it's pre-assigned and you don't want to work with them, all this kind of stuff. Let's implement the four components of leadership. So number one, act as a role model by gaining their trust, admiration, and respect, right?
Yeah.
You could do this through work ethic, high skill, building rapport, doing some of those things that we spoke about at the start of this episode. So when you start your group project, get to know who the individuals are. If you don't even remember their name, how could you possibly expect them to help you out in this project?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Right? Get to know them as individuals and what kind of hobbies they have. Maybe they're a part of the basketball team and basketball is like, right? So like talking to them about that. Really get to know who they are as people.
Yeah.
Next up is to convey sort of a compelling vision or to have something that's actually exciting to work on, right?
Be the idea man.
Right? The idea man. Think about usually teachers leave a lot of leeway in projects.
Yeah.
Things for creativity as well, which is component number 3. So think of creative ways to approach the project, taking into account some of those personal things you learned from your team members.
Yeah. What are their interests? What do they want to do? What are they into?
Maybe one of them is super into photography. You could integrate some of their photos into the project.
Yeah.
So now they've got some hand in the game. What's it called?
Yeah,
Some leg in the game. Some meat in the game.
I was thinking it was some meat in the game,
Some
but
meat in
that's
the
probably
game?
not right.
Right?
Creating our own analogies.
They have a bit of personal investment into it. So now they want to work on the project as a whole. Why? Because if the project fails, then their personal work also fails with it. Their photography failed with the work. So because they want their personal stuff to succeed, now they're going to help the entire vision succeed. Right?
Yeah.
And then taking in their individual needs. Recognize that, okay, sure, there's a deadline to meet, but let's say this person is a part of the basketball team. Maybe they have basketball practice on Tuesday and Thursday, and your suggested time is, hey, let's meet up Tuesday after your basketball practice. Well, are they really going to want to meet up Tuesday after their basketball practice? You're going to be so
Probably
tired,
not, yeah.
right? So figure out ways that you can move around that. Maybe they don't even need to come to this meeting of yours. Maybe they just get the work done the night before on their own, or the morning after, or whenever they're feeling more energized, and that's the way that you work around it, right?
Yeah, I guess, you can be flexible, right? Like, you don't have to say, hey, this is this deadline, do it by now.
Yeah.
I mean, deadlines are kind of deadlines, but you don't have to do it, like, in the meetings way, because half the time meetings are a waste of time, let's be real.
Yeah.
Hey, let's meet as a group to do this together. 3/4 of the time, you're not doing anything.
And
so
you can
just
do it on your
kill
own.
so much time.
You can do it on your own, and if the person is, let's say they're more introverted, maybe they actually prefer that. Maybe
I mean, most people would prefer
right?
to rather just get their own, say, hey, divvy out the tasks, go do your thing, and then we'll meet up and put it together.
Yeah.
Spend like half the time, probably less, quarter of the time to meet up and do the rest on your own.
And this is another trick for, if you're trying to get, especially for group work, is that provide assistance early on so that you're not screwed later on. So what I mean by this is, let's say that you divvy up the work. At the start, give ideas.
Yeah.
Give ideas to your other team members and say, oh, like, maybe we could do this, that, whatever, so that you have done the uphill climb together. The hard part together, which is just getting started. Yeah. That's the hard part. It's just getting started. Once that ball is rolling, then it rolls far easier. A lot of people, they'll just say, okay, we'll divide and conquer. Everyone goes off with a different vision. None of them are on the same page with one another. 2 days before the project comes around, and one person realizes, like, okay, wait, nobody got their stuff in like we said they were going to, and I have to do the entire project on my own.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, just work together early and then divide after all the ideas have come
Exactly.
together, right?
And once that happens, it's far more likely to adhere to the completion of the project, rather than in the end you just having to do the project all on your own.
Or coming together with 4 different ideas and it being like 4 different projects.
And the thing doesn't even flow well together.
Yeah.
So, here we're going to give you guys some things that you can go home and start doing them, because some people, naturally, leadership comes to them. Mm-hmm. But for other people, it doesn't, unfortunately. Yeah. So if you aren't a person where leadership is kind of up your alley, what are some things that you can do to build that up? And it can be trained. The first one is find 1 to 3 places in your life right now where you're not serving, encouraging, or living up to your potential.
It can be tough now since things aren't in person, but you can still get out there and do some of these things.
Oh, yeah. Well, like, it's even with online classes. For example, a lot of people talk about breakout rooms.
Yeah.
Right? And people say, we go into a breakout room and nobody's talking.
I don't get that. Like, just say, hey, how's it going, guys?
Right?
And then see who.
so
just be like, no one talking, just turn your mic on. If you turn your mic on, and like if you're in a breakout room of 4 people, at least one other person will be like, oh, someone's talking, I'll turn my mic on.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've walked into one, no one. I'm like, okay. Hey, guys. And then boop, boop. And then you start talking, and it's like it's just a bunch of guys talking, right?
It's that bystander effect, and just as you're saying these other people aren't coming and being great, well, if you want to build up your leadership skills, you need to figure out how to build up the skill of getting people who are on separate pages and they're all living their own lives. You need to realize it. They're all living their own lives. You need, as a leader, to bring them together. That's the whole point of leadership, right?
But the thing with those breakout rooms, though, is like, I know I've been in a couple where people just try to throw all their stuff at it and kind of completely forget the purpose of the breakout rooms.
Yeah.
Like, they'll just go on their own agenda, right?
Yeah.
Like, I won't say who, but in this breakout room thing, so we're talking about, I'll keep it super broad, but we're talking
They
about...
just went off topic.
We're talking about... So it's this thing, and like, the 3 out of the 4 in the breakout room, we're all on the exact same page. We're like, okay, we'll do this because we have to kind of present our idea. Other person, they're like, okay, here's my idea. We're going to do this, this, this. And it's like, this doesn't have anything to do with what the actual thing is. And like all 3 of us, I could probably, like, if I was like, I wish we had our cameras on because we're probably just sitting there like, what is going on here?
Yeah, that's funny.
And we're going to think, it's like, okay, we'll do that idea. Problem solved, right? Like, you don't want to force yourself to be a leader because that's obviously what this person was trying to do.
Yes.
So, okay, I want to drive the narrative so I can be the one saying, hey, this is my idea.
Yeah.
If it happens that you're the one who's able to drive the narrative, take advantage of it, right? But like forcing it, you're just going to turn everyone away from you. Like in that break, like we're all probably like, what is this? What's wasting our time?
Yeah. And I think also with that one, the person was lacking a couple of fundamental things such as high skill and tactical knowledge. But that's besides the point. And you actually nailed that second action item, which is, don't try too hard to force yourself as a leader. There's always one person in the group or whatever who really pushes to be the leader aggressively,
and they
right?
polarize everyone.
And
like,
they
as soon as you
polarize
try to
everyone.
force it, you lose everyone.
You lose everyone because nobody likes to sort of be told what to do.
Yeah, when you put yourself into a leader, and you try to force yourself in, it feels like you're putting yourself on a pedestal above everyone.
Yeah.
But if you kind of try to bring people together and camaraderie type of things, then I guess they'll sort of put you up on a little mound to some degree naturally, right? But they'll be willing to work together.
Exactly. And fundamentally, if you can do those 4 things we talked about, which was high skill, high work ethic, rapport, and be able to be a good problem solver, then you don't need people to agree that you're the leader. You will naturally just fall into that position. People will just turn to you or say, oh, I like his ideas better, or I think that this is a person that I want to rally behind. And you didn't have to do anything just because, you had those 4 components, so people gravitated towards you.
Well, like in that example, like I was saying, the 3 of us, we all came together basically, right? Or okay, wasn't really enough time to form a leader, but like the 3 of us were all basically level on the same idea, respected each other's idea, knew what was going on, right? It was basically not that, but us 3, like we know what we're doing. So in like those shorter ones, right, it's kind of hard to form the leader position.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily as important with that.
But at least then you can form a rapport with these people, right? Like in those ones, form a rapport, everyone be on the same page at the very least.
Yeah.
And just don't alienate yourself.
Yeah.
By trying too hard, you alienate yourself.
That's exactly
what exactly happened to this individual.
That's right. Because you're the one who is like if you create a hierarchy, then it's inherently polarizing, right?
Yeah.
Like by definition, if you make a hierarchy of individuals, then the people at the bottom are not going to like the guy at the top.
Or in some of those, if you're trying to do it, sometimes it might flip and it'll be a reverse hierarchy with you stuck at the bottom because you're trying to force it.
Yeah.
Look at what happened to King Louis the whatever. Got his head chopped off.
Yeah. Well, and this is the other thing too, is if you try too hard to be a leader, or you use that word leader, like, hey, you're the leader of the group. Oh my God, that's the dumbest thing ever, right? Usually, this is in my experience, the person who was stated to be the leader is not the leader.
They're usually the one at the bottom of the pecking order.
Right? Because people are not compelled by their vision. They provide nothing of real value. The person who has these 4 components that we talked about, people just turn towards him and say,
gravitate towards him.
It could just be a random person in the group, but they'll just treat that individual as the leader, and the person with the title of leader will not be.
Yeah.
Will not be.
They'll forget about that other person.
They'll forget about them, and they won't really take it into consideration. A title's just a title at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Being a leader is about the vision, about the individual.
It's about what's within, not really what's
exactly
put above them.
Exactly. Anyway. Anyways.
That's too early.
It's oh my God. English is a struggle today. I'm having a hard
daylight
time
savings.
Oh, that's right. Daylight savings. Shout out to daylight savings. Oh my God.
Shaving, baby.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning into today's podcast. A quick summary. We spoke about leadership. The 4 big things you really want to remember about leadership is you want to have high skill, have high work ethic. You want to build good rapport with the people. You want to be a good problem solver. Don't try too hard to be a leader. If you follow these 4 things, you will naturally attract people towards yourself as a leader. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you want to catch the full video podcast, you can catch us on YouTube. If you'd like to catch the full audio podcast, you can catch us on all platforms. And be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok for daily clips and content where we would love to get to know you guys more.